Hello and welcome to From the Roots Up, where we are building our homestead little by little from the roots up. I'm Kristy, and today we are going to be canning tomatoes. Now, not just any canning recipe, this is the lazy man's recipe. This is for when you are in a rush and you just need to can the tomatoes. Now, in a week or so, we'll make actual sauce where we take the time to peel the tomatoes and go through all of the effort. But today, if you're in a rush, this one's for you. It is day 14 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, where we're preserving a little bit of food every day in the month of August. So let's get started and add tomatoes to our stockpile. Now, I told you this was so easy. It really is, I promise. The first thing we're going to do is core the tomatoes. This little doohickey right here is amazing. It's a tomato corer and it works really simply. It just goes loop. It's got a little claw and it digs that tomato core right out. Makes it foolproof, and then you don't really have to worry about cutting around it when you cut. Again, another super time-saving tip. Now the next step is really super simple again. We're just gonna chop them up. It doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't have to be pretty, and we're gonna put them in this big bowl. And really, this is up to you how tiny you wanna chop them. I typically use these kind of tomatoes in stews and soups and things, so they get boiled down anyway eventually. So I'm not too precious about it. The one suggestion that I will make when using this particular method is that you want to cut, especially the pieces with skin on them, pretty small, because the skin can become tough. That's why normally when you're canning tomatoes, you take it off. But if you cut it small enough and you put it in something, it's to go in something, you can't really notice it. We've chopped up all the tomatoes. Now we're gonna put them in jars. And you can use quart jars, you can use pint jars. I'm gonna use quart jars. And in these quart jars, you're going to put 2 tablespoons of lemon juice in the bottom. And this helps bring the acidity up so you can water bath can these tomatoes. So 2 tablespoons. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to pack this as full as we can with our tomatoes, leaving ½ an inch of headspace. Now, since we are not boiling these before we put them in, you want to smash them down to release some of their juices, because boiling them would release some of their juices. But like I said, this is the lazy man's way to can tomatoes. We'll do the more thorough method later. Headspace is the space between the top of the jar and whatever you're canning. So, which for these jars is right about at this lip. We're going to pack these down really well. Now that we've filled this jar, we want to take and wipe the rim. Make sure it's nice and clean. We're going to take a canning lid and put it on and tighten it finger tight, and just a little bit more. You don't want to torque down on it with your full strength, because that'll make it hard to seal. And then we just repeat that process until we're done with our tomatoes. Now the only thing left to do with these is process them in the Waterbath canner. A couple of things to note. When you put these in the Waterbath canner, make sure the water is not hot. Because we raw packed these, the contents of this are room temperature, and we do not want to put them straight into a thing of really hot, close to boiling water, because what will happen is the jar could crack. So we want to make sure that they heat up with the water around them, and that will let them heat up gradually, and that will keep the jars from breaking. So put them in your Waterbath canner. Make sure that there's water covering the top of the lids. And you're going to bring that water to a boil. Now tomatoes take a lot longer in the Waterbath canner. You can pressure cook them, but the reason that we put the lemon in here is so that they would be safe and acidic enough to be able to Waterbath can. We're going to Waterbath can them for 45 minutes. I know that seems like a long time, but tomatoes don't have the acidity, some of the other pickles and things that we can do. So we want to make sure that we're canning them long enough. So we boiled them for 45 minutes, and then we're going to turn off the heat, lift the lid off of the Waterbath canner, and let it set for 5 more minutes. This allows them to cool down a little bit with the water around them. If you pull them straight out of the boiling hot water, what can happen is the contents can siphon out, and we don't want that. Let's go ahead and get them in the canner, and I'll see you back here once they're done processing. All right, our tomatoes are done with their Waterbath canning, and we've taken them out, and here are our beautiful cans of tomatoes, along with everything else we have canned and preserved in the last 2 weeks. We're not even halfway through the month, and look how much we've preserved in just this short amount of time by putting back just a tiny bit every day. We are going to continue our progress throughout the month of August, so be sure that you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so that you can join us on our progress through this Every Bit Counts challenge.